Hello, everyone. I am your host, Laura Brown, and welcome to a weekly episode on Shadow Space. I am so excited to bring you this week's show because I know you will absolutely love this one without a doubt. I personally, I'm a little obsessed with this topic. It is literally one of my favorite things to talk about. You actually might walk away from this show questioning certain things about yourself. Mm-hmm. Or perhaps questioning some of your beliefs. So, here's what we're going to talk about on today's show. We are going to talk about core values. Core values. And we're also going to talk about identifying your core values if you don't already know what they are. And we're also going to talk about developing those core values and ways you can empower yourself to do that. And we're also going to explore your beliefs. Yes, your belief system. We are going to talk about your beliefs, and we're also going to question your beliefs, or you might question your beliefs, like I said. We'll see. All right, so what do you say we dive right in? Let's talk about core values. What are core values, and how can you identify your core values? Core values, in my personal experience and perspective, are the things that are very important to you, the things that are very unique to you, and the things that you deem that have value for you specifically in your life. So, simply put, your core values are the things that you believe will say hold weight, have weight for you in your life. The things that you abide by, the things that are important to you, your principles, the things that you live by, the things that define you as a human being, but as a unique human being, not just any human being, because we're all very unique. So those are the things that represent your core values. And what I know from my personal experience is that often our core values are tied to our life experiences, how we see the world, how we perceive the world, and the experiences that we've been through. So your core values, may come from everything you've had to live up to now to become, if that makes sense. So your core values are not necessarily something that you acquire from somebody else. Like, for example, your family. There are a lot of people that come from cultural backgrounds where there's a lot of traditional family values and beliefs and, traditions. So those things can sometimes impact you. But the core values that you have as a human being are very, very unique to you as a very unique individual. So that is the difference. Your core values are not necessarily the things that you inherited from your family. I'm sorry, the belief systems that you may have inherited. That's not necessarily what represents your core values. Your core values are what you have deemed and defined to be the things that you live by, the principles that you live by. So what's really interesting about that, though, is that most of us will go through life and not really clearly know what our core values are. And when I say clearly know, I don't mean that you don't have an idea of what your core values are. I believe all of us have certain principles already in place. Like I said earlier, we sometimes inherit from our family and just traditionally or culturally where we come from, our background and such. These are all things sometimes that we unconsciously buy into. So when I say inherit, I don't mean that, they're given to us and passed down through genes. That's not what I mean. But these are things that we unconsciously believe and don't even question or bother to inquire and do a little more investigation behind. We just buy into the idea and we make it our own until we we live that experience in life and then come to realize that those things don't resonate with us, or they're not necessarily what we believe to be true for ourselves. And then we begin to then redefine our core values. Okay. So it's really important to understand that, because like I said, most of us really do go through life with everybody's else's ideas of what is important for us, and not necessarily what we think is important for us. So the core values are so fundamental to who we are as a unique individual, but we have to take the time to really invest and inquire and do the work and define what we deem to be important and valuable for ourselves, because this is what literally shapes our life. Our life is founded based on our core values, because when we know what our core values are, we build our life based on those things, right? And we attract, the things, the relationships, the partnerships, the friendships, the life that we want based on our core values. We either allow those things to come into our life based on our core values, or we decide and determine that those things are not aligned for us and, aligned with our values. Therefore, we don't accept those things in our lives. Our core values are so fundamental to who we are. They're really, really kind of the baseline of who we are as a human being. For me, for example, my core values were not clear to me till much later in my life, when I decided to write down my core values. I know it sounds really cliche to say that, but at the end of the day, I really do believe in putting pen to paper and making things very clear. And might I add that your core values can vary depending on what area of your life you're thinking about. So for example, if you're thinking about your family, right? Family core values versus career core values versus your health core values. All those things can be very, very different and very significantly unique to you, and also not on the same alignment. So I think you do have fundamentals, like certain core values that are universal to you, but then there's specific ones that you can develop and identify based on the areas of your life that you're thinking about. So as I referenced, the family or the career, those are all areas that can be very different for you. For example, for me, when I was defining my core values, I was really reflecting on the things that I had been through and the things that I have experienced thus far, and what I learned from those experiences, and also, the lessons I integrated in my life as a result of those things. And that is how my core values came to light to me. And so for everybody, this is very different. Just like our life experiences, these things are very different for each and every one of us. So our core values are very individually unique to each and every one of us. This is why it's so important to really be clear about your core values, because like I said, this is actually what shapes your life, right? This is how your life looks based on what you believe is important and valuable for you in your life. So going back to what I said in the beginning, understanding core values, that is what's really important. You have to understand what your core values are to you. And it's not about comparing, what your family thinks, your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, or, your partner or your friends. It's not about comparing your values versus somebody else, because your values have no bearing on anyone else. They shouldn't have any bearing on anyone else but you, right? So the way that you see the world and perceive the world is very unique to you. And this is why it's so important to really spend time developing, your core values. And might I add, they actually also do change. As you grow in life, your core values may change and become different as you evolve in your life and have different experiences or different encounters, and hopefully all good, right? But as you have those encounters and different experiences, your core values may change, and you may revisit certain areas and see things differently, right? So this is why it's really important to invest the time and really be very clear about your core values, and really be proud of those values, and really live by those core values, because this is the foundation of who you are as a human being. And this is how you show the world essentially what's important to you and how you want to be treated, and what you will or will not allow in your life based on your values, and how you, interpret the world based on your core values. I'm so glad I was able to say that word. That word is sometimes very challenging for me. So developing your core values is so important. So how do you identify your core values if you don't already know what they are? It's exactly what I said earlier. It's really about understanding your life experiences and how you have been able to live your life experiences, and what you have drawn out of your life experiences as lessons and wisdom, and how you see the world and what you want to contribute in the world, and how you see yourself essentially. So your core values are essentially tied to your belief system. They are your belief system about how you see yourself and how you see the world, and what life has essentially gifted you with in a form of in form of wisdom or life lessons, right? So based on all of those things, you will then begin to identify what your core values are. For example, I have always, and people have always said this to me, sometimes you're so naive because you're so open and welcoming to people, and you have to be a little more cautious. This is not necessarily a value, it's just how I see the world. I am open, and I am very, I like to hear different perspectives, and see people and hear and understand people from different walks of life and different culture, and things of that nature. It's always been, something that's interested me. So yes, this is how I show up in the world. And so therefore, I don't have a reason not to. This is part of my belief system, and this is part of the way I see the world. I don't have a reason not to see the world this way, because this is who I am uniquely. And so for you, it might be something different, but I think we all have something. And, once you understand, how to identify your core values, then you can put those things in front of you. And as cliche as that may be, grab a piece of paper, write these things down, or put them on in your computer, write these things down. I actually, funny enough, have a chart of what my core values are. I know it's crazy, but I do, because it helps it become really clear for me, and I know what is important, what's valuable. But I think beyond all of this, I think the core values are such an anchor for somebody. It's kind of our anchor. When you have gone through life and you haven't developed or identified your core values, and you look back after you have done so, let's say now, you can see where, okay, if I'd started with this, maybe I would have been able to avoid X, Y, and Z, because this really did not align with me. I really didn't resonate with this, and this was really not in my best interest. And you can see how that plays out in your life. Now, I'm not suggesting that once you know your core values that everything magically falls in place for you in life, but it's sort of like your kind of the foundational piece of who you become, because then you can really, even if you're, say, caught up in a situation that is completely misaligned with you, you can then maybe come back to your senses and go, you know what? Let me really rethink these things. And here's why. And here's what's important to me. Here's why I don't want to participate in this type of thing. And here, for example, I'm going to talk about gossip. Certain people, they love and revel in gossip. Certain people, this is kind of the juice of life for them. It's all about talking about people and people behind their back. This is what makes their life, and this is, what gives them a sense of I don't even know what to call it, because I would never understand. And I'm not suggesting that anybody's perfect, and I'm not suggesting that none of us have ever engaged in that sort of thing. I'm not suggesting I haven't either. But I'm saying, as you establish certain things about your life and yourself, you begin to see what's important. And then you begin to make your choices differently, right? So you'll begin to choose your circles and the people maybe you even associate with, and the things you associate with. And, just you make wiser choices once you know what your values are and you operate from that state. That's the important piece here. You operate always from your values, right? At least for me, this has been, some of the things that I have noticed in my life is, another example I'll share here, kind of cool, but kind of, I don't know. It made me feel good. I had a call set up with somebody, and I was really there to help them and guide them along. And this is something I really wanted to do for this person. And I had, set up multiple dates where we were going to connect and have, conversations and things of that nature. And we had our first call, and that was great. And so the second time we were supposed to meet, I reached out to the person because they were late to our call, and they responded, and then they joined the call. I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes later. But this person was, I think, flabbergasted at the fact that I showed up. And they even said it to me. They said, I really didn't think you would show up. I thought you forgot all about me. And it kind of, caught me off guard because I didn't really think about it in that way. And I said, what do you mean by that? And the person said, I'm sorry. People never keep their word or never show up for me or something to that effect. And it really kind of touched me, for one, because I said, oh, I'm so glad I did. But then secondly, I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting, because that's true. Sometimes people fall short, and we all do. But then thirdly, I thought to myself, I was like, I'm so glad I did for her, because this was important for her to see that not everybody is this way. But then fourthly, I said to myself, well, these are really kind of my core values. I always want to be reliable as much as humanly possible, as much as I can be. This is not for the other person necessarily. Yes, it is, but it's more so how I live. This is, if you will, this is code for me. This is my code in life, right? And that is what's important about understanding your values, because then you start to operate from those principles, and it's not necessarily about the other people, and it's more so about you and what you believe in. So, speaking of belief, let's dive into our belief system, shall we? So, this is where I say you might question your beliefs, because our belief system is what guides our life and will continue to guide us in life. And before you folks out there who are hardwired in your beliefs and your traditions and all that kind of stuff come for me, I just want to say I understand that it takes a lifetime to rewire a belief. So I'm not sharing what I'm sharing, in an effort to make somebody change their belief if that's not what they want to do, right? We are all entitled to believe what we want to believe. But here's what's challenging about our belief system. Our belief system sometimes is just comprised of ideas that we have adopted, quite literally adopted from people, from people who sometimes like to generalize things. It's not necessarily our own ideas. It's more so a collective idea and a general idea or general sense of something that we buy into unconsciously. And then that becomes our belief. But the interesting thing about our belief system is that whatever we believe, whether it's a lie or it's true, will always act as law in our life. So if we believe a lie, the lie will become truth. If we believe truth, the truth shall remain truth. But our belief system is so powerful because this is what makes us or breaks us. This is how we are wired to act in the world. We act from our belief system. What we think about ourselves, what we believe about ourselves is what determines what we do with ourselves in this lifetime. So it's really important to revisit and question your beliefs. Oh my God, I can't say this enough. Question your beliefs. Question everything if you can, because you will see that a lot of things that you believe about yourself or about life in general is really founded on truth. Things that are not even relevant to you, things that don't even resonate with you, things that don't even matter to you, right? That you just bought into a concept and an idea that says to you that this is what I want you to believe, so believe it. Like the idea that, gosh, that if you are at a certain age as a woman, that you really can't do certain things. That is not true. We see that idea being defied every single day by people. Because if we believe the lie, it becomes truth. If we don't believe the lie and we shatter that lie, it becomes our new truth and our new reality. So we can, in fact, challenge our beliefs. It is perfectly healthy to challenge your beliefs. It's perfectly healthy to question your beliefs. And the other thing I really want to talk about on beliefs, and I think I will actually have an entire show about beliefs because I am super passionate about beliefs and the belief system and how this drives our life. So the other thing about our beliefs is that many of us actually believe exactly the way everybody around us believes because there's a lot of underlying fear if we challenge ourselves to break out of those belief systems, right? So then these beliefs become limiting beliefs. They're not necessarily what we think, but then they end up turning into limiting beliefs that prevent us from moving forward in life. This is why I said you might question your beliefs because your beliefs are not all true. They're only true because you believe they are. So continue to question your beliefs, continue to challenge your beliefs, right? Just because your parents have believed something a certain way their entire life doesn't necessarily apply to you. And just because your spouse thinks certain things are meant to be this way or that way doesn't necessarily make it true for you. It doesn't necessarily make it true for you. That's not to say it might not be founded on truth for them, but perhaps for you it is not. And so this is how we end up limiting ourselves and not allowing ourselves to move forward in life because we're buying into these concepts and ideas unknowingly and unconsciously, and we are creating these blocks into our life. I am one who has never allowed other people to impose or superimpose their beliefs on me. I always welcome, right, the idea and talking about it. I'm full of questions. I like questions. I like to ask people, how did you come up with that? And what does that mean for you? How true is that? How has that helped you in your life, and things of that nature? But the concept and the idea may not be relevant for me. So I'm hyper aware of that. And there is absolutely nothing wrong, right? And so, like, for example, I was talking to a family member recently who said, when it's cold outside and it's raining, and you wear certain shoes and you go out there, and you're exposing yourself to this type of weather, you may continually get sick. And I'm like, yes, possibly, but not always. Right? Not always. Possibly yes, but not always. So I'm not going to believe that, because it's not always true, right? That's just a simple example. There are so many examples I can give on this. But, someone unconsciously buying into that becomes their truth too. So then that becomes a limitation, right? And so now the person who bought into this idea does not allow themselves to go out and, maybe enjoy the weather, or, just take part of something, because they believe that if they do, they might get sick. This is how our world is wired, unfortunately. Now, of course, changing your beliefs will take a very long time. And I personally don't even think you can do that. I think, I was listening to a podcast recently with a neuroscientist who was saying that you cannot change a belief, but you can rewire it. So rewiring a belief is perfectly doable, because you can create habits and do the same things over and over with repetition, create new habits, and then create new beliefs and all that kind of stuff. So perfectly doable. So it is something that you can certainly empower yourself with. I am one who has experimented with that type of stuff. For example, when I wake up in the morning, when I used to wake up in the morning last year, I didn't drink water first thing in the morning, but I made that something that I wanted to do, because I believe water is really good for our bodies, being that we are, I don't know, depending on the science and who you listen to, where our body's made of 70% of water, or something to that effect. So I decided to hydrate myself more and really make that a focus in my life. And so I started creating habits and really making this a conscious intention and a conscious effort. And I have to say, I have seen this become a natural thing for me now. And I do believe that water is really good for our health and everything, right? Our body, our mind, every single part of us. And so now it has become a habit for me that I don't even think about. It's the first thing I do in the morning, and, every single day without even thought. So I think rewiring your beliefs is something that you can certainly do by creating small habits and really consistently doing those habits will lead you to continue to rewire and rewrite these beliefs, essentially. But what I really want to drive home here is that our beliefs are not always founded on what is true for us as an individual person. They may be true somewhere, somehow, or somebody, it may be true for them, but for us individually, they may not be. And so we have to be willing to challenge these beliefs, because this is how we overcome our limiting beliefs, right? Someone who thinks that they're inherently bad at something without trying, because they've been told that they're bad at something and they believe it, may never try to confront that thing, or never try to challenge that thing. They just accept that as being their reality, and being a matter of fact for them. And those are the type of things that frustrate me so much, because it's like, I always think there's so much more to us as human beings, and we are limitless beings with limitless potential. But then we allow everybody's beliefs to limit us, and we stay stuck in that, and we don't even bother to challenge these beliefs. So, relating this to what we were talking about earlier in terms of core values, your belief system also drives your core values, right? If you think you're always going to be bad at something, and that is just what you're predestined to live, you may never challenge yourself or try to push yourself in life. You may just accept that your life is just going to be what it is, and that you have no power. And so your core values may be based on that, right? It may be founded on that. So you really have to be willing to revisit all of these parts of yourself and really make this very clear for yourself. Okay? So to recap here, we have to really be willing to look at our core values as our foundational pieces and as what makes us unique as an individual, right? Our core values are so important for us and for our health and well-being, because we design everything and attract everything from how we see ourselves and what we think about ourselves and what we deem to be valuable for us and what we think is important to us. This is how we create the life that we want, but also this is where we operate from. We operate from this baseline. So it's really important to develop your core values and identify those and make them really clear for yourself, but also be willing to be flexible and look at areas where you might have to revisit your core values and perhaps, redefine them, especially in relationships. I don't know about you guys, but that's ever evolving for me. So be open to the idea and the concept of developing and redefining your core values, because it's your life, right? And it's what's important to you. It's what's valuable to you, regardless of anyone's input, regardless of how close those people are to you. It's so important that the values are yours uniquely and yours individually. And also your belief system. Question your beliefs. Question everything about your beliefs. Question as much as you think you need to, right? You can challenge your beliefs. It's perfectly healthy to do that. You can challenge beliefs that you have believed your whole lifetime if they're not serving you, especially if they're not serving you. Challenge them, change them. You have the power to do that. You have the power to change your beliefs. You can rewire your beliefs. Regardless of what tradition and cultural background you come from, you can challenge those beliefs. They have to be very, very authentic to who you are as an individual in order for you to live your most authentic life and your most meaningful and fulfilling life. So it's perfectly okay to challenge your beliefs. Okay? You have got my full permission to do so. If you take anything away from the show today, I want you to know that you have my full permission to challenge your beliefs and to revisit your core values and develop them. Okay? All right, guys, I'm looking at the time here and I am going to wrap up. So I hope this show was helpful to you. And as always, feel free to share the show with anybody that you think can benefit from what we talk about here, a friend, an acquaintance, a partner. Feel free to share with as many people as you'd like. And as always, your ratings are so appreciated and tremendously meaningful to me. So I appreciate all of your ratings, and please continue to do so. If you'd like to connect with me on my socials, feel free to check out my IG at Shadow Space Healing, or TikTok at Shadow Space Healing, or you can also visit my website, shadowspacehealing.com. All right, guys, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. And until next time, have an amazing day. And I will see you guys on my next show. Bye.